Well, good afternoon and thank you for joining us. You're watching Inside Government and we are coming to you live from Broadcasting House. And of course, today, we just want to focus on the micro, small enterprises. I mean, if I can give you some statistics, 40% of the Kenyan population, they work in the SMEs industry, and about 80% of all enterprises in Kenya are classified as small, medium enterprises, and so they are a critical cog in Kenya's economic development. And that's why the government has already formed the MSER, which is an authority in charge of driving the agenda of small businesses. And last month, we saw more than 3,000 delegates from the East African community congregate for the annual EAC trade fair, which was held at Jamhuri grounds, showcasing different products that are manufactured or that are made in the East African community. And we have seen trade between intra-trade within the EAC region growing at a rate of 22%, which is actually very, very good. And when we talk about integration, the East African community is considered to be one of the most integrated bloc in the world. I just want to take you to Jamhuri Showground, so that, I mean, not Jamhuri Showground, but Jamhuri grounds, where the trade fair happened. That was last month, which is going to give us some ideas on the issues that we are going to discuss on Inside Government. Let's first of all watch that clip.
Day 6 of the 25th East Africa Community Trade Fair in Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi. It is here that calls were made to the leadership of Kenya and Uganda to address the trade restrictions that appear to have a negative impact on the growth of trade between the two nations.
The intra-regional trade in the East Africa is only 20% currently, compared to 46% in SADC and 65% where we want to go in the European Union.
While we have mechanisms in place for elimination of NTBs, it's important that we continue to focus specifically on those NTBs that impact micro, small, and medium enterprises. Some of them do not have voice to be able to raise these issues.
In the non-tariff barriers, which clearly some of our nations have notoriously imposed. In my view, and the view of our Committee of Parliament, these are not friends of East Africans.
Speakers at the forum at the same time call for the enhancement of cross-border infrastructure, as well as the embracing of cross-border payment systems for efficiency.
If you look at the value-added products here, you know, it shows the opportunity we have even for industrialization. Kenya, you know, we have really advanced in terms of putting in place infrastructures that can support industrialization across the country.
If we are not careful, if we cannot propel this engine of growth, the industrialization that we are talking about as EAC will never happen. So it is my prayer that we take it upon ourselves and really go out to make sure we brand, we advertise, we reach out as much as possible to get so many people to subscribe to this trade fair so that our people within the region can see the gains of actually coming all the way to exhibit and see value for money.
They further called on East African community member states to work closely together and share the available resources.
Stop being an embarrassment to the human race. That here is a race God has given resources no one else has, but these resources aren't benefiting their people, they are benefiting others. In the meantime, we are busy fighting one another.
In the meantime, Micro, Small, Medium Enterprises Principal Secretary Susan Mangeni urged the small and medium enterprises to take advantage of the county aggregation and industrial parks being established in every county.
Take advantage of the special economic zones, the new special economic zones again that have been gazetted and are under construction right now. Take also advantage of the EPZs, because for us to bring in or to attract foreign investors, there must be a pull. The push and pull must come from the local investors. And if you ask yourself, who are investors that you're looking at, we are looking at MSMEs, because 98% of businesses in this country are occupied by MSME.
Timothy Kipnusu for Legends Edition.
Well, when you look at trade between East Africa and the rest of the world, it has also been growing at a rate of 22% in the last 5 years. And today, the amount of goods traded within the region and the rest of the world, you're looking at $141 billion US. And this is from in 2022, and that shows that there is a growing appetite for products made in the East African community. But the
Kenya's exports to Burundi were valued at $56.2 million in 2024, according to data from UN Comtrade. To boost trade, the two countries are rooting for integration of financial technology to expand access to finance for artisans and small businesses.
There are several strategies that can be used to increase the competitiveness of MSMEs, namely digitalization, product and service innovation, business process innovation, and marketing and sales innovation.
The partnership also seeks to support the digital and green transformation of small enterprises through digital tools while adopting renewable energy and sustainable production methods to qualify for emerging green finance.
Beyond these strategies, the importance of several supporting factors such as government support, access to financial resources, networking, and collaboration opportunities are of paramount importance.
What is the volume, what's the capacity of all these people combined? It's a multi-billion business here, and yet they call it small.
Both countries are further calling for enhanced transport infrastructure and logistics connectivity to lower freight costs, ease movement of goods, and expand regional market access for MSMEs.
Long live MSMEs development in the EAC. Long live the collaboration between EAC member states. Long live regional cooperation. I thank you.
As exhibitors continue to have conversations in the 25th EAC MSME exhibition on Burundi Day, entrepreneurs as well as government officials drawn from Burundi said that they were ready to leverage on Kenya's advanced technological know-how in their financial services to improve trade not only within their country but within the East African community. I'm Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1 from...
Well, that's our reporter Regina Manyara there giving us some statistics about trade between Kenya and Burundi. And of course, there are several attempts that are being made to ensure that you deepen trade between Kenya and Burundi. And one of them is expanding infrastructure. And one of the plan is to, of course, construct roads all the way from the port of Mombasa to Malaba, and of course now going all the way to other regions like Burundi. And so these are some of the issues that are being addressed, as well as policy issues, so that you address the issues of double taxation. But what about trade between Kenya and Rwanda? Let's first of all listen in.
As cultural dances and songs of the South Sudanese people reverberated through Uhuru Gardens on the State's Day at the ongoing 25th EAC MSMEs exhibition, one thing stood out: the need for targeted investments in infrastructure, regulatory reforms, and digital transformation to unlock entrepreneurial potential.
We don't have access to finance. We don't have support. If we have support, we can do. Nowadays, we have the knowledge, we have the energy, we have the skills, but there is no support.
Please sell our country, our products, make it attractive.
They called for fast-tracking of key corridors under the EAC Regional Infrastructure Plan, harmonization of business registration, licensing and taxation systems to provide a more predictable environment for MSMEs.
Through initiatives like the one highlighted here today, which demonstrate commitment to financial and skill development.
MSMEs from South Sudan will adopt mobile payment systems, e-commerce and agri-tech innovation to grow their ventures.
Let us live air with renewed senses of unity and propose commitment to fostering partnership and creating economic future for all East Africa countries.
As such, MSMEs drawn from South Sudan are going to be leveraging on Kenya's prowess in fintech and digital innovation to ensure that they as MSMEs access global markets beyond the East African region.
Well, of course, as you have seen there, the future is so bright for the East African community. If only the leaders would address teething challenges like, double taxation, as well as development of infrastructure and deeper integration within the region. By the way, the East African community is the most integrated regional bloc in Africa. It serves as a model of regional development. And so joining us this afternoon, we're talking to Mr. James Moreu. He's the chairperson of the Micro Small Enterprises Authority. He's joining us this afternoon. Thank you very much indeed, Chairman, for joining us here. You attended the 25th edition of the East African Trade Fair, which took place at Uhuru Gardens. I'm sorry I said Jamhuri Gardens. It's Uhuru Gardens. What did you get to learn out of that trade fair?
First of all, thank you very much, O'Brien, for having me. And indeed, yes, it was a very interesting time in our country when we hosted the 8 East African community countries at the Uhuru Gardens for 10 days. First of all, it was a logistical nightmare because, every one of those, there was over 3,000 exhibitors from the region, small and, micro, small and medium enterprises, ranging from engineering products to woodcrafts to all manner of herbal products. It was a good experience, really, for the region and for the country to host such a big event. That in itself was also a very good thing. The learnings from there is we must now start re-engineering the way the East African community is looking at production, manufacturing, because I think we have stuck to some of the very basic, and I say this for across most of the countries, they were actually exhibiting very basic products. Yeah. I think Kenya did quite a bit of manufacturing of equipment like stoves, cooking stoves, and other equipment for shaft cutters and things which are engineered and made by the Jua Kali. But largely, most of the East African community countries were exhibiting very basic products.
Like spices. I know spices were very
spices were very there. Were there in big numbers. Burundi brought a lot of handicrafts, handcrafted cooking pots and pans and stuff and mats, and which are all okay. They were in high demand. There is demand for it. But again, when you think about the value that we're looking at, they may not be that much. But overall, the experience was good. There was peer-to-peer learning. There was a lot of exchange of ideas between the East African countries. And in a way, that also addresses the issue of the intra-East African trade. Because if you look at the intra-Africa trade, right now it stands at about 12%. If you look at the intra-Europe trade, it's at 70+%. So we are learning now from amongst ourselves to trade within ourselves. One of the interesting experiences that I saw there during the event was where people were exchanging goods for goods instead of money.
Like barter trade.
Barter trade, yes. And it's a way to go sometimes when you find, okay, I'm stuck with my goods. I need some shirts, but I've got, some pots. Can we trade off? And yes, bingo, there were trade-offs. So it was a very interesting, experience, so to speak. Yes.
I also attended, and I, managed to go around the trade fair. And honestly speaking, you see, when you look at most of the items that are traded, they are primary products. You're talking about soapstone items. You're talking about coffee. You're talking about tea. And all these. And I was left wondering, if technology is what is going to drive the future, then is East Africa going to be a part of that future, really?
A very good question. A very good question, because I would have wanted, I mean, what you're saying is spot on. We're basically doing very primary products. It was a trade fair. That just people wanted to go around, impulse buyers. Whether the location was 100% spot on is another thing, because obviously in trade fairs then you want to get people who are just walking in. They were not really coming to the fair, or they haven't left their homes to come to the fair. Suddenly he finds there's some bars here and he gets in there and comes out with 1 or 2 items that he's bought. But you're right in saying we are still doing a lot of primary products. The manufactured products were not that many. I know Tanzania has done quite a bit of footwear production. I saw that quite a bit. Kenya took the lead in the engineering part, in the packaging of products. There were some very, very well packaged products, tea, coffee, health products were there. But we need to do a lot more. If you ask me, I would have been happier, and this is the suggestion that came out of the ground there, that we can also see a bit more of digital technology being exhibited there, where people, tech startups and tech gurus and people who are doing some tech business, so that we start now transforming ourselves from that primary to a bit of value-added products, a bit more than what we're doing. But still, overall, I think it wasn't a bad performance, so to speak. Yeah.
And you see, you come from the business background.
Yes.
And
yes.
You see, you come with a tremendous amount of wealth when it comes to business management, business development. And when you look at the trade fair, now 25 years later, has anything changed?
Oh, again, if you look at the history of the fair, 25 years ago, there was only a handful of Kenyans and Tanzanians and Ugandans who met, and they called it a fair, but it wasn't really. It was like a small marketplace. Then incrementally, it has gone round the East African states. And what has happened from the 3 East African countries that started, it went to 5, then to 6, then 7, now 8. And what has happened is, O'Brien, the goods between these 8 countries are beginning to flow fairly freely. And again, if you look at what was exhibited 25 years ago, was basically tea from Uganda, from Kenya, coffee from Uganda, Tanzania, this. Very, very basic. Now, when you look at what is being, there's been quite a bit of value addition. It's not just raw tea, it's not just raw leather, it's not just raw this. I mean, I bought some very nice shoes from Tanzania. And I bought some fine soapstone pieces. I mean, even the traditional soapstone. I'm sure when you came, you saw some of those very big pieces of soapstone.
Very expensive, actually.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
I also bought some soccer ball from Tanzania as well.
Exactly. So They are beginning slowly. It's like the rising from the ashes now. We are beginning. The East African monster is rising and looking around and about to roar. And yes, 25 years later, first of all, even the shared experiences between the countries. I mean, hosting that fair is a nightmare. I can tell you for a fact. And considering all the 8 East African countries now have had, 7. I think
there were 8.
It's only DRC that has not hosted.
Okay.
Because even South Sudan hosted, Burundi has hosted, Rwanda has hosted, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, they've all hosted. And I think it's only DRC Congo that has not. And Somalia, which is the latest entrant to the space. So I think in a way, even the learning, the peaks that we have taken from that experience, in and itself is a big plus. Yes.
When you look at the original idea of the trade fair, it was meant to showcase what SMEs or MSMEs in Uganda are doing and what MSMEs in Kenya are doing, so that they can also exchange ideas and also create a platform where they can also start trading among themselves and also export to the world.
Yes.
Do you see this happening today?
Absolutely. Absolutely, O'Brien. Because if you look now, there was one company, Africa Trade Gateway, ATG, that was registering all these companies. And really, what I saw, and that's why I said I would have wanted to see more tech companies. This young tech fellow, Felix Chege, is a representative of African Trade Gateway. He also has a company, Real Sources Africa, which is really sort of consolidating all these traders into a platform where they can actually start trading. As opposed to me moving goods, now the African Trade Gateway is actually becoming like the central figure, where you pledge what you have, and I can say, I'm looking for tea, for example. And in that gateway, then I'm told, oh, Brian has tea. So I'm hooked up with O'Brien through a deal room where we are able to transact. And the African Gateway then sort of makes a little commission for linking up. That is the next platform. That's the next move that we're making. And I think with that, then you can see small companies now getting into that big market space. The other important thing that I see in this is with the advent of Real Sources Africa, African Exim Bank, and African Gateway, Trade Gateway, we can be able to start consolidating commercial quantities where you have 10 tons of coffee, he has 5 tons, the other one has 20 tons. Together we have 80 tons, which can make some commercial sense. So we are looking also at this eventually becoming consolidation centers where you commercialize the production of every one of them. So in a way, that is going to be a game changer. African Exim Bank, the AFCFTA, because again, the AFCFTA will not be realized without the involvement of the small manufacturers. Because that's where you start now buying Africa and building Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, one of the proposals that was made by some of the SMEs that were exhibiting there was we need to create trade centers in all the East African Community member states, whereby if I want to buy, for example, let's say goods made in South Sudan, I can easily do that here in Nairobi without, you know, much hassle. The same thing if a South Sudanese want to buy Kenyan products, they can go to the East African Trade Center, they buy right in South Sudan. Do you think this is an idea that should be explored?
It is actually not an idea that should be explored. It's already working. I can tell you, the Real Sources Africa has started a deal room and a market where you have a place where you can get not just East African products, but African products. It's actually the bigger picture of the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, where they have opened a big supermarket that is accommodating different countries. If you remember the old days, I don't know that you're old enough to remember the East African trade fair that used to happen in Jamhuri Park before it was turned into the showground. There used to be that. There used to be the East African trade fair, where you find Uganda big time, Tanzania big time, Kenya big time, showcasing their products in the Kenyan. Now, if you have that, which is already happening, and I'm sure in a little while you'll see it realistically on the ground, then you'll be able to say we have a market. We have a market where you can find virtually everything from East Africa. One-stop center. I come here, I can go, that corner is Uganda, that corner is Rwanda, that corner is Burundi, this corner, and through that I can go. I love Ghanaian outfits. If we can get a Ghanaian shop that can supply us with some of these Ghanaian outfits here, I don't have to fly to Ghana. I bought one outfit in Akosombo. I don't want to fly to Akosombo again. I want to find it here in the comfort of my capital city. So that is about to happen, and I think that's what we should encourage. And likewise, if I go to Uganda, I should be able to get Kenyan products there. And it will also help to serve the East Africans who are living in different countries of the East African region. A Kenyan has a special way of taking his ugali, ile unga number 2. If you can avail it in South Sudan or in Somalia or wherever, and he's able to buy it there, why not? Just, You
see, I've had the privilege of, attending other, trade fairs, and especially in China.
Yes.
And trade fairs in China are different animal altogether.
Oh yeah.
They showcase technologies like robotics.
Yes.
Internet of big things.
Internet of Things, IoTs.
IoTs, electric vehicles. They're so much into electric stuff, technologically driven products. Are we looking at a situation whereby even MSMEs in the East African region will get to such point?
Why not? Why not? Our dreams are valid, O'Brien.
And how do we make those dreams to be valid?
I tell you, I think probably what you're looking at is specifically the East African Trade Fair as the end. It's just the beginning. Because if you look at some of the other fairs that I've seen, I've been to Sarit Center where you see all manner of robotics, all manner of tech gurus, tech startups that are in the process. Maybe what we should start looking at, O'Brien, is these things are there. There was a time I went to KICC and I found this exhibition that was going on, and the technical schools in Kenya were showcasing. And this young man had a device which is like a breathalyzer that can be fitted on your steering wheel, that it breathalyzes you, okay? As soon as you get into your car, if you're above the limit, that engine of yours refuses to comply. And I asked him to demonstrate that, and he actually showed me. Here's a demo car that's running, and then you put a drop of alcohol, and you see the wheels just going to halt. So I said, stop right there. If you haven't patented that, which he hadn't, you were just excited about that. I said, now this is where you need to, first of all, protect your invention, IP, intellectual property. Then, now look at how we can scale that, because that's a big invention. Something that just links up to your engine, instead of waiting for police to alcohol blow you, or you drive when you're drink and drive, and you cause other deaths or unnecessary accidents, let your car park right there. Stop, it won't start again, and then either you get a sober driver or park it there and take an Uber, go home and be safe.
The other thing,
so there are many of those. There are many such. If you look at the tech space.
So it's just a question of bringing them to the trade fair.
Absolutely.
And how do you do that?
Now, again, okay, in the traditional way of looking at the trade fair, it has remained largely the way it is. But I can tell you from what the outcomes of this year's trade fair, because Kenya is, in the region, Kenya is really recognized as a tech hub. I think what you will see shortly is now a similar fair, not dealing with the traditional goods and services, but now starting to address the tech space. You'll have a smart agriculture, you'll have smart this, smart that, you'll have green agriculture, you'll have environmental friendly working power generation, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So slowly but surely we'll be moving in that direction. But O'Brien, I'll also tell you, sometimes you look at what has worked or what has remained practical to do. And if you look at a country like Burundi, for example, or South Sudan, they can only exhibit what they are best at. If they are producing those, like there's a country that makes those funny Makonde masks, that's their best product. They bring it to the market. You do get people who are actually collecting Makonde masks, but that's all they can do. It is basically a very rudimentary way of making it, but it's done, and it puts food on the table for them. As opposed to when you talk about China, they are light years ahead of us. They're what they call woodwork. What we used to make in school, we used to make those cooking spoons and things, and those soup stirrers as your art and craft. The Chinese are making disco watches, which they are sold to you here. They actually give you in kilos, but they are made. They've gone to electronics, so small kids can make all those as handicrafts, and they are thrown there. They put a battery, it's working. Put it in there. They are shipped out of the country because there are too many of them, and they are sold for nothing. So, I mean, we are at different stages of development. Are we getting there? Yes, we are slowly getting there. Yes.
Is there much that can be done to accelerate the process?
Yes, yes, indeed. I'll tell you what, governments in the East African region need to commit more resources to the sector. I have no doubt in my mind. Because if you look at the traditional sectors that have been hitherto known to drive the economy, you look at tea, you look at coffee, those are the ones that have traditionally been known. But how much can you do, how much more tea can you take, for example? Even if the population is increasing. What we need to do is re-engineer ourselves, support the small, medium enterprises, who I want now to request the country to consider changing the name. You know there's power in a name, O'Brien.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, and I was just sharing this today in my board meeting, that we should look at a name like Emerging Enterprises.
Instead of calling them small and medium.
Yeah, you know, small, micro and small things don't matter, do they?
No, they don't.
They don't. So me, I'm thinking, these are the future companies. They're the future big corporates that we shall be seeing. So why not call them emerging? And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to emerge, but you're still growing, slowly but surely emerging out of this.
Something.
And if you're talking about transforming the East African region or transforming the country, we must start from the basics, and the basics are our SMEs, get it right, build the numbers, and continue building. And government must, and I say this without a doubt, they must commit as much resources to this sector as they talk about.
They must
commit as much resources.
They must walk the talk.
Yes. And if you look at commercial banks, they don't care about micro and small enterprises.
Because they are micro.
They are. And I'll tell you, one of the big micro SME is Equity Bank. Equity Bank started as an equity. Family Bank started as an equity. Bitco started as a small SME. Nobody cared about them at that time. Today, where are they?
Yeah,
so do not despise humble beginnings. And that's why I'm convinced that there's power in a name. Because today, O'Brien, if you're told there are some SME guys looking for you there, you almost want to duck through the back door and avoid them, because you know there is trouble.
Yeah.
They are coming to look for bus fare to go home, or they're looking for their, something or the other. That's why I said there's power in the name. And I'm saying, and I'm convinced that if we change that name to emerging enterprises, and I want the world to listen to this, emerging has more dignity than a micro and small enterprise. That almost, you know, there is a maxim in law that was used once in this country about small things that don't materially affect a case in court. It's the nemesis something. They are so minute, they are micro, they don't matter. But I don't think that's where we are as SMEs.
Do we even have any business that is micro?
Yes. So micro that, you know, the guy who goes and buys five cobs of maize and roasts and sells, that is very micro. Akichoma hiyo, whatever he makes, he consumes and saves for tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And we've started like that. But again, if you look at the funds that we have in this country, I dare say we need to consolidate these funds into something that can actually be more tangible, because I think we have spread too thin. There are so many funds that really need to be consolidated to make sure we pay attention to the sector that matters. There is about over 16 million SMEs that employ 90% of our workforce in this country, contributing upwards of 30% to our GDP. That's not a sector that you cannot pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of us looking at all these other institutions that can actually go and look for commercial loans because they have the requisite securities, or they have the books that can justify, I'd rather if we concentrated more on the 16 million and start building them towards the top, trying to flatten the curve. Right now it's like this, that they are here at the base. But what we want to do is gradually flatten the curve so that all of us can proudly walk around and say we are Kenyans who are proud to be Kenyans.
I mean, for the last 25 years, I mean, the trade fair has happened. And so the question that keeps on coming is, what are the lasting impact? For example, Nairobi hosted the trade fair. Last year it was in Juba, South Sudan. You know, as a chair of MCEA, when you look at the trade fair, what would you say is the lasting or lingering impact of a trade fair to an economy or to the East African community?
Interesting. You see, if you look at, I've just said there was 3,000 exhibitors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, many of them were Kenyans. I mean, well, there was about 50 or 40% of that was Kenyan.
Mm-hmm.
But there was still 60% that came from the foreign countries. They came for 10 days. For 10 days, they lived in Nairobi. They consumed in Nairobi. They bought products in Nairobi. Kenyans also went and bought products in there.
Mm-hmm.
That economic activity in and itself is transformative. There are people whose lives were completely changed. I mean, tell me, and I'll give you an example. The guys who brought those big artifacts from Kisii,
mm-hmm.
the king, the queen, the eagle, and they sold those products there. They were bought.
Mm-hmm.
I'll not tell you by who, but they were bought
Mm-hmm.
for a good pack of money. Those lives are changed completely, right? There are people who came with very nice sandals
Mm-hmm.
made in Uganda. They sold and sold and sold. There are people who came with feeding products, animal feed products from Nyandarua. They sold everything, and probably the amount of money they made transformed them. The guys who came with machinery from Nakuru, they also sold, and their lives are changed. I mean, if you sell all those equipment and make that money, you're bound to have an impact. It's bound to have an impact on your life.
Mm-hmm.
So there are lives that have been touched and changed completely. I have no doubt in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Chair, I mean, the next 5 minutes as we come to the end of this conversation, there are so many MSMEs watching this show,
Yes.
and they will still want to know what is the future of the MSME trade fair. How can they get involved, and how can they scale up their business from micro to medium and medium to big corporation?
again, the answer is in walking the talk. We have this fair, and since I became chairman, the first fair I went to was in Mwanza.
In Tanzania?
In Tanzania. Very well organized fair. And there are people, personally, I can tell you, have moved from here to the next level. My own eyes, I've seen them from Mwanza to Uganda to Burundi to South Sudan and now to Kenya, all right? And they have progressively improved their products and increased their participation. Now, the SMEs that are here, sometimes what I see is there are people who don't want to travel or get out of their comfort zone. So that you are only used to selling in Umoja, you know, you make a few chairs, you sell. But do you know, O'Brien, arising from this trade fair, there are people who got orders for DRC and for Burundi for furniture, for things that we take for granted here. We assume this furniture, you know, Jogoo Road, if you go to Jogoo Road, personally, if you ask me, that is one thing that the government should commit. And I dare say I'm part of the problem, because I probably should have looked, I should have pushed a little harder to get resources to enable us to do more aggressive marketing, right? So that we know, for example, in DRC, they require this furniture, right? They require this equipment from Nakuru. So all we need to do is be strategic as a country and say, we are going to allocate enough money to market our Jua Kali products into DRC. Go there with a purpose, so that we are no longer just making trade missions, going there to do what? We've got to be very, very deliberate in what we're doing and what we're going to do there. We want to go, we have identified, they are looking for example, baking equipment or grills or cooking stoves or what have you. Pack 3-4 containers with a marketing team and go there and set up a Kenyan expo there. Get the government to fund it, sell that product, people will pay taxes here.
Very well.
You understand? Good. So that's the only way we can build a tax base. Broaden it rather than deepen it. You are going to be taxed until you have nothing left in your pocket. But when we increase those numbers, then we'll tax more Kenyans and therefore spread the responsibility.
And we are going to build our Singapore.
Absolutely.
Very good.
It's not far-fetched. All dreams are valid.
Very good. Thank you very much, Chair, for joining us this afternoon on Inside Government, and of course, sharing with us those insights.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, let's keep the dream happening. It's real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, step at a time.
Very good. James Moreu is the chairperson of MSEA, joining us this afternoon to help us put pieces together on the way forward for developing MSMEs, not only here in Kenya, but even within the East African community. You have been watching Inside Government, coming to you live from Broadcasting House. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.